Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our solid waste and recycling session. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. The participants will not be able to unmute themselves during this session. And if you're calling in, you will need to email me your questions and I can forward them on to the presenters. And also, we had one of the gentlemen that was one of our presenters had to cancel. So Roger Hancock with EPA will be going last and giving some announcements and updates. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And our first presenter is Sean West with Cherokee Nation. Sean, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Karen. And welcome to the afternoon session of the ITEC conference. We were all talking this morning about the last week of July. We're usually having a face-to-face meeting and everybody's getting together and having a conversation, and we missed that. I think the only thing that's the constant is it's way over 97, 98 degrees, and I'm sure all the golfers are not sad this afternoon because today would be our golf day. So look forward to seeing everybody in person one of these days. So I'm going to spend a few minutes this afternoon talking about a battery recycling event that we had earlier this year. I know everybody's familiar with batteries and familiar with battery recycling to some extent. And we had just been sitting around last year thinking, what can we do to help with recycling and sustainability and some of the other ideas that we were throwing around our office. And so we decided that we would put a battery recycling event into our GAP grant for this year. So I want to just kind of go over a little bit of the process that we used to come up with the recycling event and some of the results that we got from it, just to kind of give everyone an idea of how pretty much simple it is and how easy it is to recycle and how you can come up with some pretty good results. So this is a quick just overview of the event and some of the ideas on how to set it up and some of the ideas on what might make a program that you might be able to do at your own tribe. So here goes. Okay, so like I was saying, during the year, you know, at Cherokee Nation, and I'm sure at your tribe too, we ask for public input on different programs or different ideas that people might have that we could do in our GAP or in our other programs. And during some of the waste events that we had last year, tribal citizens were asking, hey, do you guys recycle batteries? I've got a whole bunch of them stacked up at home. Is there any way that we can recycle those? And you know, it's nice to be able to go out and actually do a program that the public is interested in. You know, a lot of times we sit in the office and we come up with projects that we think are good or that we want to actually do ourselves. But when you get public participation in a program before you even apply for it, you know that you're going to get a good response. So I was pretty confident after we heard these ideas from citizens and some other interested parties that we were going to have a pretty good response to the battery recycling event, just because that's what people wanted to do. So I decided that I would try to write this up in our GAP program. And I know that the GAP program has different indicators for recycling and for solid waste and for some other things. So these are two of the indicators that I used for the program. Tried to establish a program to provide waste minimization, recycling, household hazardous waste collection, and a method used for general public education awareness and community engagement. Now, those are not catch-all categories. That's just not, I mean, check with your project officer before you would write this up and say, Sean from ITEC said that we could use these indicators. But these are the two indicators that I did use on this, and they're pretty much a general indicators for recycling and for public awareness and community engagement. So I think that these both of these indicators would work fine for a small recycling project of this size. And you can, if you don't think those are what you would want to use, you can always, there are other indicators, and you can talk with your project officer or talk with Roger later when he presents to see if there might be some other areas that you could use for a recycling project. Okay, so the description of the deliverable for the program was pretty simple. Research battery disposal options and resources to determine the best options for the tribe and build capacity for sustainable program. So yeah, we wanted to have this one-time battery collection event, but we also wanted to make sure that once we came up with the idea on how to do it, that we could use that from now on for another project or another program next year. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel every time. So we wanted to make sure that we researched the program fairly well, where we could come up with a program that would be pretty much self-sustaining for the years to come. So I don't know if everybody on the line knows or on the webinar today knows how many batteries there are, but there are batteries, all kinds of batteries, and it was a real eye-opening experience for me. You know, you see batteries in all kinds of things, and these are just a few of the batteries that we collected that are recyclable. But if you look on here at this list, and this is not an all-inclusive list by any means, but there are rechargeable lithium-ion batteries for cell phones, laptops, and tools. There's rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries. There's small sealed lead acid batteries. There's rechargeable NiCad batteries. A lot of these batteries are in power tools, and a lot of these batteries are in laptops and cell phones. And each one of them has a different kind of a source that they use, and each of them has their own, I don't know, their own capabilities and how well they operate and how long they last and what they're made out of. So almost every battery that we could think of, we wanted to make sure that we could recycle anything that anybody brought in. So this is not a complete list, but it's a pretty good list of the things that we got. So let's just kind of go over a few of the batteries just to get an idea of what we were looking at. The rechargeable lithium-ion batteries are batteries usually for power tools, some cell phones. You look on there and on the side, it'll say lithium and it'll say a voltage on there. You can recycle any of these batteries. Another kind was a rechargeable nickel metal hydride. These are used in tools and cameras. You can see it's a different kind of a battery. That's another thing. Batteries come in all kinds of sizes, shapes, colors. There's no such thing as a regular looking battery. I found that out. There are batteries in almost everything you can think of. Rechargeable nickel cadmium batteries. You've seen these. They plug into the bottom of power tools. One thing about cadmium batteries is, and I researched quite a bit on the internet on this, is that since they do have cadmium in them, this is a battery that everybody, including the manufacturers and most recycling places, want to recycle these because of the cadmium content in them. You know, cadmium is something that they want to recycle because they're found in the batteries in pretty good concentrations. So, and of course, there's the single-use alkaline batteries and the single-use lithium primary batteries. Everybody knows what these are. The single-use alkaline batteries are the ones that you use in flashlights and toys. And the single-use lithium primary are the button batteries that you find in hearing aids and watches. Those are batteries that we all know and we've all seen and have been used since we were, even when I was a little kid, they had these batteries. So these batteries have been used for a long time. But the thing that we wanted to make sure of on the battery recycling event was we wanted to make sure that the company that we use to recycle the batteries would take the single-use alkaline and the single-use lithium primary buttons. A lot of companies recycle batteries, but hardly anybody will take the single-use alkaline and the single-use lithium primary batteries. So we researched that to make sure that they would take those batteries because we felt like we were going to get mostly those batteries for recycling when people brought them in. And at my house, yeah, we have all the different kind of batteries, but we don't have but a few of the bigger rechargeable batteries, and we have a bucket full of these single-use alkaline batteries. So we wanted to make sure and check to make sure that with your recycler, they'll take those batteries also when you decide which recycler you want to use. Okay, so we called around, we got some ideas on what we could recycle, and we got some ideas on what we needed, how we needed to handle them. But the main concern on battery collection is this, and this is what I wanted to emphasize today on the the webinar today for a battery recycling event is that all of the batteries, or most of the batteries, are recyclable. You can throw them in together, but to ship them, there are rules, and on certain batteries, you have to have terminal protection is required. So in other words, you either have to seal them up in a sack by themselves, or put tape or some kind of terminal protection on the batteries where they cannot be touching together, because you could cause an explosion or a fire. So I've just listed some of the things on here that we had to make sure that we knew before we just threw a bunch of batteries into a giant box or into a pail together. You know, the rechargeable lithium ions, all of those have to have terminal protection. The nickel hydride, metal hydride, anything over 9 volt, the rechargeable nickel zinc had over 9 volt, and the rechargeable nickel cadmium over 9 volt. All of those batteries have to have protection on the terminals. So battery collection is pretty easy. You get quite a few batteries, but at the same time, you have to be careful on which ones you get. And sometimes it gets kind of cumbersome doing the batteries with terminal protection. So just remember that a lot of the batteries will have to have the terminal protection. So you'll have to get you a list of what needs it and what doesn't. And I can also make this presentation available for anybody that wants to print this out. That way you'll know that those are the ones that are the most likely to need terminal protection and or cause any kind of sparks or any kind of fires. The thing that kind of surprised me was single-use alkaline batteries above 12 volts need terminal protection, but most of those batteries are not above 12 volts. But all the single-use lithium primary button batteries, all of those have to have terminal protection or be sealed up separately. So we got a lot of these batteries, because, you know, there's a lot of these batteries in everything you can think of. And every one of these had to have terminal protection or put in a plastic bag by itself. So it can be kind of cumbersome and kind of tedious with the lithium primary button batteries. Okay, so the batteries that we didn't accept during our event were damaged batteries and lead acid automotive batteries. In other words, the big batteries that come in cars with the cores in them. We got quite a few batteries that were like this right here that were just rusted out and damaged. The recycling place will take those batteries, but there's an entirely different charge and a different setup to take those batteries. So if you're considering taking damaged batteries, just make sure that you check with your recycler to make sure that those charges will be the same charges that they charge for non-damaged batteries, because in my research, the batteries that are damaged, the disposal costs were much higher than the undamaged ones. So just remember to check on that. They will take damaged batteries, and a lot of people throw these batteries into buckets full of water. I don't know why, but they become damaged and they become soiled and they look like this. So we did get a lot of batteries, quite a few batteries like this that we just turned down because of the way that we were having to ship them. Okay, so the collection method was rather simple. We researched and we ended up using a place called Call to Recycle. They sent us boxes to collect the batteries in. They gave us a list of the rechargeable and the single alkaline batteries that they would accept, along with all cell phones. You could just throw the cell phones in there with the batteries also. And you could ship up to 66 pounds in each box with each shipping label. Once you bought the box, the label and the shipping came free with the box, as long as you were up to 66 pounds worth of batteries in the box. So if the batteries didn't require terminal protection, you could throw them all in the box. So the picture on the left here, those are all batteries that didn't require terminal protection, so they're all thrown in the box together. The picture on the right are alkaline batteries, and they're all can be put together because they're not over 12 volts, so they can be put together. So once you go through your batteries and do your terminal protection, you can throw your batteries all into these boxes up to 66 pounds in weight. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but 66 pounds of batteries in a square, small box is extremely heavy. You probably wouldn't want to have another box with more than 66 pounds in it. That's a lot of weight. So, but anyway, we just collected the batteries in plastic tubs. We sorted them out by terminal protection and then put them in the recycling boxes and labels right on site, ready to go off to the recycler. Okay, advertising. Everybody knows that advertising is a big thing when it comes to recycling. And getting people out there and getting them up to the event is half the battle. I guess we were fortunate because we had already decided that we were going to have an e-waste collection event here at the Cherokee Nation as part of Earth Day. And so we thought that tag teaming with the e-waste event, a battery recycling event, would be great, because the people that were bringing in e-waste to recycle were probably the same people that were going to recycle batteries. So we decided that this would be a good tag team for us to tag along with the e-waste collection event to collect batteries. So as you can see here on the right, we had the batteries recycling event at our warehouse. It was about from 7:30 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. We put on there which batteries to bring. We put on there what not to bring. Even though you put that on there and you put it on there and underline and bold it, you still get some of those things. But most of those things, most people adhered to this pretty well and didn't bring any of the things that weren't on this list. So as you can see, it was on Wednesday, April 21st. It was in correspondence with Earth Day. And we had our newspaper out there. We even had dignitaries out there celebrating Earth Day with us, taking pictures of the e-waste event and the recycling event. So at the end of the day, we collected the batteries into the tubs and in the boxes. And at the end of the day, I weighed the batteries. And we came up with 295 pounds of batteries, 118 pounds of rechargeable, and 177 pounds of alkaline batteries. If anybody knows that if you have a AA or a AAA battery in your hand, how many batteries it takes to make 177 pounds of alkaline batteries is a lot of batteries. I was pleasantly surprised at the number of batteries that people store at their house. People were bringing in buckets full of batteries and packages full of them that they had saved for years and years and years. So 295 pounds of batteries was a lot more batteries than I thought we were going to get. I was really happy and excited with the outcome. I think that a lot of people have been home cleaning their house because they've been working from home and been home because of the pandemic. So I think that really helped in the battery collection event and the e-waste event. People were trying to clean out their houses, and it helped us to get a better turnout from the whole event because they were conscious of getting rid of some of that stuff that's been laying around the house. Okay, so here's just a few lessons that I personally learned and we learned as a group from the battery recycling event. Number one, almost any battery can be recycled. You sit around and you think of batteries as just AA, single A, AAA, 9-volt batteries. That's all you think about. But you don't think about the things that batteries come in. And that's also the number 3 item down here. Batteries are very common. They come in all kinds of things. I never realized there were batteries in those lights you put along the driveway for Christmas lights that glow in the dark and that charge up all day and they glow in the dark at night. Those have batteries in them. Security cameras have lights in them. Smoke alarms that have batteries in them. It's just everything almost anything you can think of has a battery in it. And there's so many different kinds of batteries. People also, though, realize that batteries are probably not good for the environment, and they seem to have a pretty good connection with recycling batteries. People have always thought, we need to recycle these, and if there's an easy, inexpensive way for them to do it, they will do it because they think that batteries are probably not good for the environment. So they're relatively easy to recycle because most people know that throwing a battery away is not a good idea. So that's the number 2 thing that I had on here. Recycling is really easy. Anybody can drop a battery into a box, and it's relatively inexpensive. The boxes were pretty inexpensive. $49, $59 for a box is really pretty inexpensive to with the shipping and everything included. So it's pretty inexpensive. And once you buy these and get the system set up and you're in the system for the collection, you can just set the boxes around in permanent locations in your office or wherever you want to recycle. And you already have it set up at the recycling center. So once it gets 66 pounds in the box, you close it up, you mail it off, you put another box out. It can't be any easier than that. People do their own work on here. You don't really have to do anything. It just sits there and you collect the batteries, and you don't really have to have an event if people know where you've set the collection systems at. We have a couple here in our office, and they're almost full again since we've had this event. So people realize where they're at, and they'll drop them in there because everybody likes to recycle. I mean, it makes them feel a little bit better about what they're doing. And if, you know, we need to kind of set an example in environmental programs to be recyclers. So I think that people are, they feel good about recycling. So this is an easy system. It's inexpensive. It's easy to set up. It's easy to keep on going, and you can recycle almost any kind of battery. So those are the lessons that we learned, and I think they're all pretty important to make the project work really well and to keep it going from now on. Here's a picture of what we had. We had administration came over. The chief is in this picture, the deputy chief, our Secretary of State, and some of the people that helped on the recycling event. We have a really good group of administration here that's really involved in recycling and in sustainability programs. And I know that a lot of programs are going towards sustainability. So having a battery recycling or any kind of recycling program is great if you want to promote sustainability. So I think it really works hand in hand. And I think there's a lot of programs that are going toward more sustainability and recycling. So I know this wasn't straight up typical recycling. It was something different that we'd never tried before. And I think it worked out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with the amount of batteries we got, and the system worked really well. The battery recycling place also, when you're done, we'll send you a certificate of recycling showing, hey, you've done all this recycling, and here's a certificate to keep your files, where you can keep it just to show administration or your citizens, hey, we've done all this recycling, and we got something from the program. So I think it worked out really well. I think that's about all the comments that I have on the program. I could go into it a lot more detail, but I think that the main idea that I wanted to have today is just to show how easy it is to set one up and how you can recycle a lot of batteries in a short amount of time if you promote it correctly and you use the right collection system and the right company to do your recycling. So I think that's it for me. If there's any questions, I know I talk pretty fast, so if not, you can always get with me or email me at another time, and I'll be glad to send you the slides and the list of batteries that are collected and which ones need terminal protection and which ones don't. And I can also let you know which company we used and how the system works.
Thank you, Sean. I don't see any questions in the chat box just yet. And for those of you that are calling in, you will need to email me or Sean your questions. If you want to email me, you can, I'll forward them on to Sean. Let me check my emails. I don't see any just yet. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and move on to our next presenter. So Sean, if you want to stop sharing your screen. I am handing over privileges to you, Amanda. Our next presenter is Amanda Schofield with ODEQ. So Amanda, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Karen. Let me get my slides up. Okay. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Amanda Schofield. I work for the Department of Environmental Quality in Land Protection, Solid Waste, and Sustainability. So I'm going to be talking to you today about our solid waste management funding opportunities. Okay, so solid waste is just a fancy way to say garbage. So our projects encompass that in different ways. So recycling, illegal dumping, litter abatement, household hazardous waste, compost, anything like that. We can probably find a project that we can fund for you. So who's eligible for these projects? Well, units of government, tribes, public universities, schools, and nonprofits that can demonstrate that they are the only nonprofit in the area doing the work that they're doing. So we have 5 categories of grants. They are environmental officer, equipment, collection event, food waste management, and professional service / other. So I'll go into each category into more detail and show you some examples. So we do have an application window. We're going to try and open that up in April, this coming April. And if not April, somewhere around then. And we will advertise the window of application by posting it on our website, which I'll put some links in the chat when I'm finished. And we'll also put out a press release. So keep an eye out for those around April. So our grants are based on our fiscal year, July 1st through June 30th. So we just started a new year and we're getting some projects ready. These are on a reimbursement basis, meaning you would pay and we would pay you back. We do ask for monthly invoicing and statistics. So I'll first talk about our environmental officer grants. These are typically for one part-time officer that works to curtail illegal dumping, and they also work on some cleanups, clean up some dump sites, and they'll put cameras up to try and catch the dumpers and no dumping signs. They also use social media, like a Facebook page, and they create a tip line. And this is a good way to engage the community, keep the area clean. And so, yeah, I mentioned those monthly metrics. So here are some numbers from last year. We had 14 environmental officers, 200 dumps cleaned, almost 800,000 pounds of trash picked up, 1,800 tires, and 8,800 miles of road. So even though we ask for statistics each month, they're not always perfect. So the numbers are probably even higher than this. So one reason this program got started is because of these roadside dumps. This one pictured is a legacy dump from Pottawatomie County, where they cleaned up 150 tons of garbage from this roadside pit. I went to see it when it was cleaned up, and I saw it right before they filled it in, and it was pretty impressive sized hole. But yeah, this is one where people in the community were saying they came with their grandparents and dumped their trash here. So generations dumping trash. So we're trying to get rid of that and keep our communities clean. This is a before and after picture from the Ponca tribe last year. In the before photos, you can see mattresses and some electronics and furniture and all kinds of stuff. And then I love the after picture because the sky is blue, the grass is green. It's a beautiful day and there's no trash except for in this dumpster here in case anyone comes back. So the Ponca tribe sent in really good before and after pictures. That's something that we encourage. They cleaned up 6 sites, and we also funded them a skid steer so they can clean up in the future. Right, so another type of grant that we have is for equipment. This is equipment that is between $5,000 and $50,000. And if you wanted a piece of equipment that was more than 50,000, we could just help partially fund it. But one of the most popular pieces of equipment are chippers. And so on the top photo is the town of Laverne, and on the bottom is the city of Waurika. They both got chippers. After chippers, we have balers. Those are pretty popular. We did a beach rake last year. We've done some trench burners, which you need a permit to do. So we can get you set up with that. Trailers to haul trash away on, and then equipment for household hazardous waste, recycling, or composting. All right, so this is the city of Marlowe pictured here, and there's another chipper. So you can see they come in all shapes and sizes, and it just kind of depends on your community's needs. Here are some statistics from our chipper grants. So 56 million pounds of brush chipped, 29,000 cleaned from the community, 600,000 beneficially reused. So with our chippers, we love this beneficially reused aspect. So we don't really want to see these chips going back into the landfill. So we really encourage beneficial reuse. And some ways you can do this would be like the city of Marlowe, they use their chips on their big playground that they have. It's really cool. You can also offer them free to citizens to come pick it up. People love mulch for their garden and on their land. And then you can also give it to local businesses to mulch their gardens. And so it's kind of a combination of cleaning up all those branches out in the community, and then also a beautification side with the beneficial reuse. And chippers were really popular last year from that big ice storm we had, so that they were in high demand, and I imagine we'll have more ice storms in the future. So they will come in handy. This is that beach rake I mentioned before. The city of Eufaula applied for this, and it was one we hadn't seen before, so that was pretty interesting. You can see there's some debris in there, some trash and some lake debris, and they also had concerns with glass in the sand. So we like to see that getting some good use. Right, another type of grant we have is for collection events. These are typically for 1 or 2 events per year. A spring and a fall event is a popular timeline. They of course include household hazardous waste, but we would also love to see these additional materials at these collection events. So e-waste is a big one. Sean had a great presentation on batteries. Those are so important to recycle because they can start fires, especially those lithium ion ones like he mentioned. And for e-waste, we want the vendor to use a certified e-waste recycler, so we can help you get set up with that. Tires is a big one. The DEQ has a free tire program. So if you do a collection event with us, we can get you set up for that, or not. If you don't do a collection event, you can still get set up with some free recycling of tires. And Barella March, she's going to present on tires in one of the segments in the conference, so be sure to check that out. And then pharmaceuticals and sharps are super important to dispose of properly, and I'll get into more detail on those later on. These collection events are also a great tool to help prevent illegal dumping. So people are really just trying to get rid of their stuff. And when you offer them a free collection event, maybe they won't go dump it on the side of the road. So great tool for that. Right, another event, or excuse me, another grant we have, wasted food management. So this one is new this year and we're pretty excited about it. Our goal is to feed people, not landfills. So we know that food waste is a huge issue and that 40% of our landfills are filled with organic matter, and we don't want those sitting in the, we don't want that sitting in the landfill. We want to put that back into hungry mouths or back into the soil for those nutrients. So the idea is to reduce wasted food, divert it from disposal to higher use, and to understand our local infrastructure. So over on the right, we have our food recovery hierarchy, where source reduction and feed hungry people is at the top, so the most preferred, and then all the way down to the least preferred, landfilling. And we have some example projects that we just thought of, but we're also open to ideas. So one project could be this food share program. So pictured here is a share table. I've also seen share closets, but the idea is to collect that uneaten, unopened food at the end of lunch and put it out, so if anyone wants a snack later, they can grab it, or if they want to take it home over the weekend or for the evening, they can grab that and take it too. And so just instead of throwing it away, we want it to get eaten. And we know there are hungry people out there. Another example is this food reservice program. I first heard about this from the UCLA campus. I thought it was a cool idea where at the end of their dining hours, they collect all the food that's still edible and then they reserve it late at night, like at 10 p.m. And they offer it free for the students for a late night snack or a fourth meal. And it's pretty popular. So we love that idea. Another project could be this research project where a student or whoever looks into existing food recovery infrastructure. So what do we have in the state? What's already going on? What are the gaps in that infrastructure? How can we help? And then a secondary aspect to a research project could be designing and implementing food recovery initiatives. So maybe creating an app that connects our food banks with our hungry people, something like that. And then another one, just community food recovery support. So maybe there's already a food bank out there, but they need new bins or they need new signage. Maybe they need an extra refrigerator to expand their work. So we can fund stuff like that as well. So we got, like I said, this was a new program we opened up this year, and we got one project that we're funding. So we're excited to see where that grows and to watch this grow. Right, and then our fifth type of grant, professional services / other. So on the professional service side of things, this is mainly for our nonprofits. Again, those nonprofits need to demonstrate that they are the only ones doing the work that they're doing in their area. And we call this sole source. And these are some examples of some nonprofits we fund. And they work on all kinds of stuff, litter abatement, sustainability, beautification, education. And then the other part of this grant type is a little bit of a catch-all. So we don't want to restrict projects to these specific categories that we have. So if your project doesn't perfectly fit into a category, then we can throw it in this category. So these are typically one-time cleanups where we can fund rental of equipment and disposal fees, stuff like that. We can also do technical assistance. So one example is the city of Wagner is opening up a recycling facility, and so we just helped with some startup fees and some equipment costs. So yeah, we're open to ideas as long as it falls under that solid waste umbrella. All right, and on the left, this is the city of Perry. They did a one-time cleanup. They had this big ditch where they had a bunch of scrap cars over the years get dumped there, I guess. And then on the right is the Environmental Expo that the Met puts on every year. And this is just kind of a summary of last year's projects. So I like to see the projects laid out on the map. In green, we have our environmental officers, which typically work on a county basis, but not always. And then in yellow, these are mostly collection events and equipment grants. And then down at the bottom, additional contracts. These are ones that don't perfectly fit on a map. So we do have a goal of equitably funding the state. So if you're in the West and you need to do some solid waste management, we encourage you to apply because we typically mostly see the east side of the state applying for these grants. And then over here, just some total numbers from last year. We had 84 local governments assisted with cleanups and recycling programs and $1.4 million in solid waste fees reinvested into local projects. So we're expanding every year and we'd love to see you apply. And that's all I have for our grant program. And now I'm going to talk about the Oklahoma Meds and Sharps Disposal Committee. This is a professional service grant with Product Stewardship Institute that we've been funding for a few years. So we are OMSDC. So the Product Stewardship Institute is a nonprofit from Massachusetts. They do really good work. They work on sustainable end-of-life management, and they work on voluntary and legislative initiatives across North America through mediated stakeholder dialogues, which is exactly what OMSDC is all about. We are stakeholder-led. Some of the stakeholders we have in our group currently are healthcare professionals, state and local government, tribal representatives, water quality professionals, and waste industry professionals. We're non-regulatory, so strictly voluntary. There's no legislation involved. We work on a statewide solution for the safe disposal of medical sharps and pharmaceuticals. We also work to document existing infrastructure and identify gaps and hopefully fill those gaps. And we also work on a clear and consistent safe disposal method for the state. So here's a little timeline. We got started in 2016 with a dialogue on pharmaceuticals. In 2018, we added sharps to the dialogue, and that came about because there was an incident in Tulsa where a waste worker got pricked at the landfill, and so we knew we needed to start talking about this. In the last couple of years, we've created some materials. So we created a GIS map of pharmaceutical drop-offs in the state, 2 fact sheets, one on sharps and one on farms. We have a web page where I'll share the link at the end. And then we rebranded, we became OMSDC and got an official logo and everything. We held an educational outreach campaign on social media, and we created a guide for municipalities to start a sharps collection program. So I will go into more detail on all of that. I do want to talk about why we are working on pharmaceutical and sharps safe disposal. On the pharmaceutical side, there is the opioid crisis, of course, and we know that improper storage and disposal of pharmaceuticals leads to overdoses. We know that it's in our drinking water, and we know that that pharmaceuticals are found in our on our running wild waters, rivers, which lead to the ocean. So it also affects our wildlife. When sharps are disposed of incorrectly, they pose a high risk to a lot of people. So residents, sanitation workers, sewage treatment plant operators, waste management personnel, hospitality workers, all of these people can be at risk for a prick or an infection. Even when we follow FDA guidelines, those only really protect the residents, and they don't really help those back-end workers all that much, that we don't really think about every day. So the FDA guidelines say to put our sharps in a rigid container, like a detergent bottle or a Folgers coffee can. And this does protect the residents, but once those containers go through our disposal system, so they get thrown around on the trash trucks, they get buried at the landfill, they get compacted, and then those rigid containers aren't so rigid anymore. They break open, all those sharps are loose, and people get pricked, and this happens all over the country pretty often. They also show up in our recycling facilities. They can pose risk to those workers, but also they can jam up the machines, cause some costly maintenance. When they show up, when pharmaceuticals, going back to pharmaceuticals, when they show up at wastewater treatment plant, those wastewater treatment plants are not made to filter out pharmaceuticals. So that's why we see them in our drinking water. Right, so some of the work we've done for pharmaceuticals. On the left, this is that map of safe disposal drop-off locations in Oklahoma. It is an interactive map, so you can search by type. So sometimes drop-off locations will be at hospitals, other times pharmacies, some are at law enforcement offices. So you can filter out based on that. You can also use this near me feature where you can type in your address or a place of business and you can type in a radius. If you don't want to drive more than 15 miles, you can put that in. So really great resource. And I will put the link to our group on the chat where the map is linked, and these fact sheets are linked as well. So on the right, we have our pharmaceuticals fact sheet where we talk about safe storage. We throw in some facts. We discourage flushing. And we use this stoplight approach to where the green is the best option, drop off, and yellow, mail back is the next best. And that's just because there's often costs associated with mail back, and we know that isn't always feasible. And then the last resort is to use the garbage and just to put them in a sealable container mixed with something undesirable like kitty litter or coffee grounds. And then, of course, removing your information. So this is some of the Sharps work we've done. We have the Sharps fact sheet on the left. We talk about discouraging using the trash, recycling, or toilet, especially when they're loose. And we have a stoplight approach here as well, where the best options we list as citywide program, drop off, or mail back. And then in yellow, this is a link to a different fact sheet where you can find out specific programs available. And then as a last resort, we have those FDA guidelines with the rigid container and then also home destruction devices. And on the right, this is the guide we put out on building a municipal program for home generated medical sharps. So in this guide, we have 3 steps to creating a Sharps Take Back program. Step 1, understanding your community's needs. Step 2, selecting a program model. And we have 4 options and we throw in some case studies. And then step 3, estimate cost and select a vendor. So some really great resources there. And then lastly, I mentioned we had a social media educational outreach campaign where we made some images on promoting safe disposal. So this one is for Sharps and we want to protect those back-end workers. This one is also for Sharps. We don't want to see them in the parks. You know, we want to keep our kids safe. And then we have some pharmaceutical content where we want to keep our drinking water clean and we want to keep our streams clean and our wildlife safe. So that's some of the work we've done and that is all I have today. So if you're interested in anything I mentioned, whether it's a solid waste grant or a tire, getting in touch with the tire folks, or getting involved with the Oklahoma Meds and Sharps Disposal Committee, you can email me or call me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amanda.
Stop sharing. Okay.
See if there's any questions. I don't see any in the chat. Amanda, there was a couple of comments. Did you see those in your chat box?
Here, I'm looking at them now. Thanks, Tracy. Yes, I have my presentation. Karen has it as well. Will you send it out, Karen?
Yes, I will. I will.
Okay.
And
and I can also.
Sorry. If you're calling in, you can email me or Amanda your question. And I don't see any in the chat box. And let me check my email just to make sure real quick. I don't see any in the chat box or my email. So thank you, Amanda. We appreciate you presenting. Next up, we have Roger Hancock with EPA. He is going to give us some announcements and updates. Roger, you have the floor.
Hey, there I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, good deal. Hey, and I sent Amanda, I sent you a note, but I don't think it quite made it there. Just to let you know that when those when ODEQ announces those grants, I sent you my email. If you'll send me a copy, I'll make sure it gets out to all the tribes as well. Better to be notified twice than might miss it. So we'll
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'll send that over to you. Thanks, Roger.
No worries. Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate it. So hey, everybody, and my deepest apologies that you didn't get to hear from the intended speaker on the agenda, who had to drop out last minute. And then Karen called and asked if I could kind of step on here and maybe say a few things. So you're stuck with me. Again, apologies. I know it's not what you wanted, but I'll do the best I can. First off, I'm glad I got to go after Sean and Amanda, because they actually hit on one of the points that I was going to talk about. Sean talking about the great work that ITEC and Cherokee Nation has done with their e-waste collection, household hazardous waste collection, and then the batteries. That's the kind of thing that is always needed. It's always a good thing, and it's always super beneficial. It's just the big limit is time and resources, money. You just can't do these things all the time. And where could you get some funding? And then, right there, ODEQ, hey, we have some potential grants that you could apply for that could possibly fund some of these events. In New Mexico, they have the Recycling and Illegal Dump Act, RAID Act grants that I've been working with them for years. They come to, the solid waste workshops they do, and they funded tribes to do a number of things. They can fund a whole kind of range of activities for solid waste. So I'm really happy to see tribes taking advantage of some of these grants that are offered by the states. They're fantastic, because, as you know, federally, we don't have that many grant funds available depending on the year that you can apply for. You can always use gap funds for a lot of activities, which is really great, but that is part of your allocation. And if you can get a grant over here to pay for some of the same things, well, then that frees up that money in your gap grant to do other things that you might want to do. So I'm going to actually talk about, our funding that you can use here in a minute to do also some household hazardous waste collection events and things like that. So there's several different places that you can go to, and I think that's really great. And if you're ever unsure or not sure what might be out there, again, give me a call. I know people who know people. If we can help you out, or I can hook you up with any other state or federal agency, then I'll certainly do that. But really, so I don't have a presentation since it was just coming on here towards the end. But I thought I'd hit a couple of quick high points just to kind of give everybody a heads up, and then leave time if you want to ask me any questions or talk shop about anything, then we'll do that. If not, then we're good to go. The first one I included in the art talk summary for the division, but I've gotten asked about it a couple of times, so I just wanted to make sure everybody was sort of up to date on that. And that is the tribal recycling workshop that I originally put together and was scheduled for March of last year. And in a stroke of excellent timing, I planned it for March of 2020, right when the lockdown hit with COVID and everything. I think it was the third week. And it was going to be in New Mexico, hosted by the Pueblo of Santa Ana. And I was partnering with a Northern Indian Pueblo Council, Margaret Chavez, who was giving me a lot of assistance to put this together. And the reason it came to being was our Sustainable Materials Management Program, the SMM program, which is actually in a different branch. They reached out to me and said, as sort of a way to help celebrate America Recycles Day, we're doing all these things. And they were working with me and the GAP program to do some recycling videos, 3 tribal recycling videos in Oklahoma, mainly because there's some great stories of recycling activities going on with many tribes, but our camera folks and everybody could drive up for free just for the day, drive up to Oklahoma and do these videos to highlight several tribes, like, Creek Nation was on there, and Choctaw was on there, Modocs, and some really cool videos of their recycling program and kind of how you kept things going through the pandemic. So they said, we got something going in Oklahoma. Could you do a tribal recycling workshop in New Mexico? Just kind of create it from scratch. And I said, sure, why not? And that's kind of how that originally came to being. And we ended up having to postpone it. It was completely booked. We were standing room only. It was designed as a 2-day workshop. So that what our thought was the first day we were going to have, several Pueblos, myself, the state, nonprofit, all of us talk shop about the program, funding opportunities, and all those kind of things that would be interest to everybody. And then to make this a working workshop, the second day, we wanted to actually be out and visit several Pueblos, up to 4 Pueblos, who graciously gave us permission to go to their transfer stations and tour the transfer stations, see how they're set up, look at their design, their signage, their ingress, egress, how do they do it, and target the tribe's solid waste staff, so environmental directors, but as well as solid waste staff, the folks out there doing the work who maybe can't always go to a workshop. We really wanted to have something available for them as well, that they could all get together, excellent peer mentoring opportunity, and go actual in the field and visit some of these other Pueblos and see how they do things and talk shop. And especially, and now our hope is they can, give some good ideas of, how did you keep the lights on during the pandemic? What worked for you? What did not work for you? What did you learn? So I think it could be a really cool workshop. We've had to, and I'm looking forward to finally doing it. But the latest word on that is we postponed it a couple of times and then realized we just can't keep postponing because this pandemic is taking an awfully long time. So we've pushed it all the way out to spring of next year, spring of 2022, in the hopes that we will be able to do it, that the bubble will be open and we're able to have people show up and have a get together. But we'll just play it by ear. But we hope by pushing it out that far that it can still happen. And on top of that, we got a little money from another branch and kind of we didn't expect that. And that's going to pay for transportation and hotel costs. So it'll be free hotels, transportation will be provided with buses to go to the different pueblos. So it is in New Mexico, and obviously there'll be a lot of public participation, but as in everything we do, it's open to everyone. But there will be, I don't know how much attendance we will be able to have because I don't know if we can have a packed room, if we've got to spread everybody out, but I'll let everybody know. But I was asked a couple of times recently about, hey, what's the latest on that? And so that's the latest on the recycling workshop. It's not canceled, it's just postponed. And right now it's spring in the hopes that things will be somewhat normal somehow by then. If not, I'll certainly let everybody know. I'll send you an email. Another thing that's come up that not much has happened on recently, but it's still there is with Indian Health Service. I sent everybody an email earlier this year that IHS is kind of doing a new initiative and a new partnership with EPA where they're going to be looking through the WSTARS database where they keep your open dump data information. Both EPA and IHS use this. Many of you have your own username, passwords, data. And so you have dump sites listed in there and they're ranked high, medium, low. The database is good, but it's incomplete. There's missing fields. They've been trying to go through and clean it up. And now what they're saying is, if we have some additional funding, and it looks like they might, we may be able to fund the cleanup of some high priority dump sites across the nation. And I don't know which, I haven't heard of any yet, but if they do, then they will reach out to a tribe and to myself and say, hey, we're going to be able to hit, a few sites. This is why we're going to target them. But what I sent out to everybody was there's kind of a new requirement. If IHS funds an open dump cleanup, which they haven't funded to my knowledge in about 10 years, but if they are able to start funding some, just a heads up that there's an additional form that you, the tribe, will have to fill out, which shows that you're addressing some environmental indicators. The good news is it's the same environmental indicators that the GAP program currently requires that you address if you're going to use GAP funds to clean up an open dump site. So thankfully, they all work together at the national level. You'll address these. I've sent everybody the form. I've got them, electronically. I've even got like a fillable form. I can send them out again if you can't find them. But you will fill out that form. It'll go to me, and I'll work with you on it, of course, if you need some help putting it together. I say, hey, it looks good. I've got to send it to headquarters, to Old Rocker, which is our national program, and for them to sign off, kind of like the GAP program does with AIO. And then once that's done, I will send a letter to IHS saying EPA approves, you're good to go, and then they'll clean it up. So just a heads up that there is an extra step. It's that form, which I'm certainly happy to help you put together, and I imagine IHS would be too. Another couple of things is they're going to stick to the half-acre minimum size. There's a lot of dump sites in the database that are less than half an acre, and that's fine. That's your data. If it's important to you, you can put it in there. If it's far less than half an acre. But for them to clean it up, what they're saying is they're only going to look at sites half acre or larger. I imagine that they're going to target the high priority sites first. And the other is they really only want to fund cleanup if the tribe has an approved integrated waste management plan. In GAP, you can have an approved plan, or you can have a plan that's in the works, but not yet approved, but you can show that you're working on it and you hope to get it approved soon. Those things can take a while sometimes. But for IHS, right now, they're saying they only want to fund it if it's approved. Now, if you have a special case, man, let me know. I'll work with you and we'll work with them and see what we can do. But right now, that's what they're saying. And again, I haven't heard of them funding any yet, but just heads up in case we suddenly find out that they're ready and they've picked some sites. I just kind of wanted to give you a quick update and briefing on that. And I'll certainly work with anybody who is able to get funding to clean up an open dump site. It's all good. It's just a little bit more paperwork. I'll do everything on my end to make sure we don't hold things up and it gets through as quickly as possible. So that was kind of the second thing. Another thing I wanted to mention, which fits in great with what the previous presenters talked about, was funding for cleanup events. As another reminder, I talk about this every year, but EPA does still have our tribal hazardous waste grants. They were not defunded. It's a small program. They typically are only able to fund 3, maybe 4 grants a year, usually in the range of 50, 60,000 up to 100,000. And it's a hazardous waste grant because it's funded from the hazardous waste program. But one of the eligible activities is a household hazardous waste collection event. You can do a used oil collection event. You can do universal waste like batteries, like Sean talked about. And that's pretty much what everybody does who applies for that grant. Most everybody is they're doing some type of a household hazardous waste collection event. And because again, it's needed everywhere. This is a competitive grant, but not a ton of tribes apply for it. So even if they only fund 3, there might only be 10, 11, 12 tribes that apply nationally. So my word of advice is, if you're interested in that, I encourage you to apply. I love getting those grants in our region. We've been pretty fortunate. We've had a number of tribes selected for the grants. I know ITEC, Cherokee Nation, has got funding. Northern's got funding. Choctaw, Chickasaw. In fact, Choctaw was just selected this year. I can actually say that now because it's been official. They're getting $100,000 to do household hazardous waste collection events. So I'll be working with Tracy Horst and them on that. So I'm real excited to see that. I would love, if you're interested, for you to apply. Give me a call and I can go over it with you. Maybe I can do a training like as part of a workshop later. We're kind of waiting to see how things turn out with funding and travel. I know in the past I've been able to do the tribal solid waste workshops each year, usually one in Oklahoma, one in New Mexico, and get everybody together, the state folks. And I love doing that, and I love getting everybody together. I certainly miss you guys. You may not miss me, but I miss you guys. And if I can make it, I've already talked to management, I'm going to try to do that again. And if so, I'll certainly do like a training on these grants, kind of how to write a strong proposal, because it is competitive, but if you have a good, strong proposal, you could possibly get funded. And I wanted to make sure everybody kind of knew about that as well. And those are the main highlights, the main things going on. There's all sorts of smaller stuff, but I didn't want to just talk forever on everything. But so if you have questions, let's see, any plans for a tribal recycling workshop in Oklahoma? Hey, James, how you doing? Yes. Well, okay, I have plans. Here's kind of my hope with that. If that tribal recycling workshop, if we're able to get it done and make it work in the spring, and it's as popular as I think it's going to be, because it certainly was before, I've already talked to management and said, wouldn't it be great if we could do this again in Oklahoma? And I love the idea of being able to go and do the on-site visits. There's lots of opportunities in Oklahoma to do that. And I was told that would be awesome. Let's see what the funding situation looks like. So it takes a lot of work to put it together, but I'm certainly happy to do it. So yes, I'm talking about it. No firm plans yet, but I would love to be able to do that. I think it would be great. So thanks. And the fact that you're asking about it, I think helps me kind of talk to management that let's see if we can get one of these things done. My thought would be, yeah, later, maybe summer or fall of next year, or just to see how it works. So I'm hoping, James, and if so, I'm going to draft you maybe to go look at all the cool facilities that you have. Yeah, send some chats, any questions that you have on anything. I was trying to hit just the main points, and that's the main things I can think of. Otherwise, I think that's mainly my talk to everybody. I know usually you can't shut me up, but I tried not to go the whole time. No worries, James. Thank you, man. Any questions anybody has on anything to do, solid waste, recycling, EPA, IHS? If things have been nationally, I mean, we're doing a lot of stuff, but nationally, there's not a lot of big initiatives, I think, because of the pandemic. But I think things are going to start ramping up as summer into fall hits, especially the new fiscal year. I think if things are going to ramp up. So you guys with emails if there's funding opportunities, so expect more. And you bet, Carol, I can send that to you. In fact, hey, I am going to, can I send this to everybody? Yeah, all attendees. I'm going to put my information here. And I will send in my information here to the text, to the chat for everybody. I can't do that and talk at the same time. So my phone number and email, feel free to give me a call to talk shop or anything that you want to kind of. And that's it. That's all the major stuff I had, Karen. Anybody, you're welcome. Absolutely. Any other questions, concerns? Talk about life, the weather. It's hot, super hot. Absolutely. Hey, Polly. Yes, it's hot here, but I think it's hotter in Oklahoma. So all I can say is I'm glad that we're not the hottest part of the region for once. Sorry, Oklahoma folks. I apologize, but it's nice not to be the hottest. Yeah, good seeing you too. So I hate talking to a computer. I wish I could see you guys in person. I hope we can, because that would mean things are doing better. And I'm looking forward to it. If I can do the travel solid waste workshop and or recycling workshop, or maybe something like that, believe me, I'm already talking to management about trying to get something like that together, just so I can see everybody. Hey, man. Hey, Wes. I might need a host. I'll let you know if I'm able to make all that work. Again, it's just in the talking stage right now, but I'm cautiously optimistic that I'm going to be able to get something put together. Well, thanks again, everybody. Like I said, any other questions, anything, I'm going to put my contact info here. Reach out and say hi. And again, IHS is not funding those open dumps yet. I know I didn't want to get everybody excited. It's just that they're talking about it. And if they do, there is an extra step, and I will work with you on that step. So you're not going to be left off. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you very much, Roger. We really appreciate you filling in for us at the last minute.
I know it's a step down. Sorry. But
No, thank you so much. And thank you, Amanda and Sean, for presenting today. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. I don't see any questions in the chat box, so we'll hang on here for another second while Roger puts his information in the chat box. But if you don't catch it, email me and I can send you Roger's email address. So with that, we will end this session for today. And you guys, please join us tomorrow at 8:30 for the enterprise session. It'll be starting at 8:30 in the morning, so don't forget to log on to that. And with that, we will end this session for today. Everyone have a good evening, and thank you very much.